what I see in the classroom right now that's concerning, and this isn't a Duquesne thing, I think this is a higher education thing, is that there's a lot of depression. There's a lot of, and I think we need to talk about it. There's a lot of comparison on social media, and you're a relatively recent grad. You know it better than I do. One of the few things that's nice about getting older is that you can put things in their perspective. I equate it to, not that I ever played football in high school or college because we didn't have it, but a quarterback will say things like, I started understanding the game. It started slowing down for me. When you first come under scrimmage, you see 11 guys are all coming for you, and you don't know who's coming and who's not. And I think we take everything so seriously when we're younger. And now at a certain age, 22 versus, 62, you know what you can control, you know what you can't, and you just dismiss the things that you can't. I mean, you filter through things much quicker. So I am concerned about their happiness. Too much comparison. I'll give you an example. We had a young guy say from Bucks County in Philadelphia. I said, "Are you happy here at Duquesne?" He said, "Yeah, I'm pretty happy." I said, "Well, I'd like to see a little more enthusiasm." He's like, "Well, if I didn't get into Villanova, I didn't get into this school." And then it's like, okay, I'm pretty happy here in Pittsburgh, but he's like, I didn't get into Villanova. I'm like, okay, so what else? Well, I got a friend that's in Villanova. How's he doing? He's not doing well either. What's his problem? He wanted to go to Northwestern. Anything else? He goes, yeah, I got a guy at Northwestern. I said, how's he doing? Not good. He's failing out. So, I mean, it seems like everybody wants to be someplace other than where they're at. And at some point, we got to stick our feet in the ground and say, look, I'm going to make it work here, right now. So that seems to be concerning. But when you talk to young students and they say things like, I said, what's the two leading causes of death? And they'll say, well, opioids. I said, no. What else? Death by suicide? No. So, I don't want to get super serious here. I said the top two killers by far are heart and cancer. They're like 1 and 1A. And then a distant third is hospital error. But in the world that these young people are circulating in, they really believe that those are the two major causes, which is, it's a little sad. So we're trying to meet them where they're at, but it's hard to find them. It feels coming out of COVID in college, everything's optional. It's optional to take the test. It's optional to come to class. It's optional to do the presentation. And, guess what? We have to have some standards, or nobody wants to be the Wendy's drive-thru where we just drop in a degree, right? I mean, it's got to be, you got to earn it.
Yeah, I agree. Two things that you said that stuck out to me there. The comparison thing is so, so true. You see it with the kids that you're teaching. You also see it with our other show we cover, dating, relationships, how so many people, I'm 26, but even when I was 22, 21 in college, it's even worse now. It's horrendous. You could probably attest to that from your time several years ago when you were figuring it all out. But it seems like it's the same mindset where people have that really good I always say it. They have 90% of good, but they always chase the 10% of what's missing, and they value the 10% more than the 90%. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Don't let great be the devil to good, right? Good is good, and about the dating thing, which is very frustrating, because that's another thing they're not happy about. And I have to be careful how I say this, because every white guy over 60 they want to cancel. It's like we can't say the word masculinity without saying the word toxic. As an adjective in front of it.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, I'm married and I'm off the streets, and I got 2 daughters, and every second of my life is spoken for. But I do feel bad for both sides. It seems like I hear the women, and we're 64% women, say, where have all the men gone? These are little boys. Like, where are the men? I'm like, well, for God's sake, the last time they tried to ask you out, or they tried to open the door, they were told that was wrong. They're not sure what to do now. I mean, you know, I really feel bad for both sides. I really do. And that whole comparison on social media, like you look at that handsome guy who's 28 years old, he lives in California in Maui, and he's driving a Lamborghini. And what you don't know is that, his mom has breast cancer. What you don't know is he's renting that, he's leasing it, and he's 6 months in the rear on that. He has a little bit of a drug possible issue, and none of that shows up on social media. You're looking at it at skin level. You're taking my life at skin level and assuming that it's at the bone marrow level. Case in point, even with me, I did not talk about my colon cancer removal back in 18 because I thought, no, my friends all knew about it. I talked about it in class because I had to disappear for 3 weeks. But I didn't put that on social media. I didn't feel appropriate about that. My wife had some health issues. She felt that it was okay to put on social media. And I understand both sides, but you don't have the whole picture when you just look at a snapshot of a picture. You think you do, but you don't.
No, I completely agree. It's just so fast. What you said is 100% spot on. It's every guy is going through that because, as you mentioned, they're trying to approach these girls at Duquesne, 64% women. When I went there, it didn't feel like that. I don't know if maybe it's a school of business, but it felt like more men than women. But school wide, university wide, it's probably more women than men, I would assume. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think so. I think that's true. I know it's 64% in the whole group. And there's a lot going on with higher education too. Like with the students, another thing that adds to their depression is tuition, going into debt at 22 years old.
yeah,
And then the other thing is, what is the American dream? Well, I mean, I'm sure that could be answered a lot of different ways. But the original one was, I'm going to buy my own house. Well, with housing prices, in particular in Pittsburgh, going up 22% in the last 2, 3, 4 years,
oof,
number one in the entire country. The people that grew up in Western PA, that seems to be out of their reach now more than ever. So that also adds to the depression. But we have the greatest transference of wealth because the government wants to tax it coming up between now and 2029, 30, 31 of about $73 trillion will go from our students' grandparents' age, sadly, to their parents or their parents to them. So that's something the government's going to keep track of. That's something they're going to tax. So that's going to happen with the stock market going from 6,500 way back in '08 now to what, almost 38,000, 39,000. If you just kept your money there, it went up 5 or 6 times. So that's made things interesting. And then, of course, we have inflation on top of all of that. Everything, groceries are going up. Everything seems to be going up except our salaries. So that also leads to some of the depression.
what's up, guys? We have merch now available. If you go to improvisedmerch.org, you're going to see all of the merch, crew necks, t-shirts, accessories, hats, more things that will be added over time. Thank you guys so much for supporting us, supporting our page, supporting our channel. And if you go to improvisedmerch.org, we're running a discount sale. If you use code improv10 at checkout, you're going to get 10% off of your next order. So my question to you, and I was just thinking of this as you're talking about it, as someone that's done it, right, that has walked the walk, talk the talk, teaches students, the whole thing.
Mhm.
I don't know how much young people, I mean, maybe I'm one of the only smart ones that actually took the advice of people that were older, but what is something that, I think I lost you for a second there. What is
Mhm.
something that you see could lead to students being happier, younger people being happier? Just something that if someone that's younger that's watching this says, hey, you know what? There is a guy here that is accomplished, that did it, that's married, that has children, that whole thing is successful. I think there's so much short-term gratification, right? Like people, if they're not having it today, I'm a loser, I'm a failure. And it takes
Yeah.
time, it takes work. You know that better than anybody. So what would be, just off the top of your head, things that you see with teaching now, something that students can kind of feel like good about when going to class? Because as you mentioned, there's so many things that they are either depressed about or worried about. And when
Oof.
you're 21, 20 years old, you think everything is the end of the world, you know?
Yeah, and everything is so dramatic that I need to see a therapist about. It's another problem that I can't cope with. I mean, conflict is part of life. I mean,
Yeah.
conflict resolution. You're not always going to get. You're not always going to get along with your roommate. You're not always going to get along with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Now, I always thought the 6 month rule was pretty good, but they pull the ripcord really fast, you know, and the communication isn't good. I mean, okay, so you go old school. Yeah, you call her by Wednesday. Hey, we'd like to go to out on a date, or and then you physically go there. You pick the person up. You go in a car. You go somewhere. You have a meal, maybe a movie. You share sentences. You communicate, and then you decide whether you want to do this again or not. Well, today it's all the texting, and then it's okay. He or she doesn't make me see stars again. I mean, if you think that's what marriage is, like you're sadly you got
I
it
think
out
we
of
lost you for a
perspective.
second there. This
Like
technology thing is so amazing.
it's it seems like the grass is always greener on the other side, and I'd say because there's manure in it, and I mean some of the things just I think expectations. Like I'll give you an example. There was 41 people that got hired by the Philadelphia 76ers. Some of them were our students, and
Wow.
and I know the people at the time that were there, they're all going into sales. And they tell them all to get their health insurance from their mom and dad till they're 25 years old, 11 months and 29 days. On 26th birthday, you're unplugged. They're paying the minimum wage. They're not putting a lot of resources behind them. And as the young guy said to me, he says, all 41 of us from all these vast different universities, we all thought we were going to be the CEO at age 25 in 3 years. Well, guess what? Of the 41, 35 were left on their own after 3 to 6 months, or they were fired. So I think expectations are too high initially. Everybody thinks they're a fast tracker, right? Everybody. I mean, how can I think at the end of the day, what we're talking about is I want to teach you confidence, uh, self confidence. And can I teach that to a class? And the answer, of course, is no, I can't. But what we can do, and what I think many parents try to do, is celebrate small victories. And you
They
hope
need to
that
get
one day they lead to big victories, right? To big victories. But um, I think I'll give you an example. The high, I'm hard on guidance counselors in high school, and I realize there's a lot of social issues at home that they're dealing with. But I'm looking at it strictly from, well, how do you help this person get to college? And it just seems like they could do more. I think they could do more in getting the student involved. We go back to 2008 when the stock market dropped, and this is affecting college too. When the stock market dropped from 14,600 down to 6,500, we saw people stop having children at an alarming rate because, as anybody will tell you, and I certainly can be one of the first, children are expensive. So we have a shortage of children coming out of high school in 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027. There is an absolute cliff coming. And you're going to see a lot of universities close because we don't really need them. And you're going to be stunned at some of the schools that close by 2032. I don't want to get into names and make it personal, but
I think you and I
we've
both know those schools.
yeah, and there's no reason to say their name because they're scrambling as they are. They're trying, they're fighting like pit bulls for their own survival.
This
But the minute you
technology thing's
start dipping
amazing.
into
They
your
need to
own
get you a better
endowment,
route over there on campus.
you're really in trouble when you start dipping into your own endowment because then you're on a path of death, for a university. So you're going to see a lot less universities. But I think to answer your original question, I think expectations are really important to
Way
have it.
too high.
And that doesn't mean we're not thriving to be better. Stop the comparison. Stop trashing each other on social media. Can you believe that guy asked me out or this, or say negative things about other young people? Try to be more edifying and supporting. I love LinkedIn for my students. It's a great way for me, and I don't get paid any more or any less to say LinkedIn's great, but it connects me with my former students like yourself with the current students. And a lot of things are positive on LinkedIn. No, I don't do Twitter or any of the other stuff because it can
You're
really go
smart.
into the
You're
gutter.
way too smart. Yeah.
Yeah, I stay out of that because, but I think positive things. You see one of your students get a job. Hey, congratulations, way to go. I mean, they're just starving for anything positive, and you know, you want to give that to them. You really do. I think they deserve it, and it means a lot to them. And that's the type of professor I try to be. I think if we could be more positive on social media and less critical, I think that would help everybody. And who makes fun of a guy or a girl looking for love in all the wrong places? I mean, that why would anybody get joy out of that, right? I mean, it's a little more empathy, a little more kindness, and a little more lowering expectations just a little bit. Like all 41 of us are not going to be the CEO in 3 years when we become 25, and that's okay.
This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Tej Hanley. The first thing that she's going to notice about you guys is your face. Is your skin, is your skincare on point? I have an amazing, amazing discount for all of you watching today. If you go to antferrella.com/partners and you click on the Tej Hanley logo, that's going to take you to their website where a 10% off code is going to be automatically applied to checkout. Buy anything. They have serum, PM, AM moisturizers, exfoliation, literally everything. And I've said this for many years, and it's the reason why I continue to look just so better. And I have to give all of that to Tej Hanley, amongst other things, but we'll just say it's Tej Hanley. So again, antferrella.com/partners, click on the Tej Hanley logo and get 10% off of your next order. You really hammered home an expectation of you come to class, you're off your phone, you show up on time, you on presentations have to dress up, do the whole thing. And I'm traditional. I like things that are a certain way. I just thought that was so amazing. I feel like now it's probably a little bit more challenging, though, for you to maybe be able to maintain it. I mean, you can at your classes, but at the same time, it's probably the end of the world for a kid to be on time, to be off his phone, and to maybe like look presentable for like a presentation. Because that's the real world. Like you're literally getting them ready for the craziness that's about to happen. And the thing is, you're late to that one meeting in the real world. All of a sudden, you got a Zoom meeting that's scheduled for Friday with your supervisor and another person. You're getting fired because of that thing that you didn't handle
Yeah.
because you weren't on top of it in college.
Yeah, I mean, I think it feels like tough love to some of the students. They don't understand it.
Yeah.
We've had an airing out of the situation with the cell phones, and they told me that I'm the only professor that does that,
Yeah, you
and
are.
I'm a little surprised by that. And you're right, it is getting harder to enforce that. And I don't mean to embarrass anybody, but there are times where I grab the phone out of their hands.
Really?
And yeah, and
Surprised you haven't been
it
canceled for
feels
that.
a little awkward. There's some tension in the room, but I'm doing you a disservice. Recently, it came up. A couple of our students got jobs with the Pirates, your former employer, and they said that one of the students from another university, the vice president of sales or marketing or director of sales and marketing, was in the front giving a speech. All 40 people were off their phones looking, getting the direction, the way we're going, and all this. Not for a long time, like 15 to 20 minutes tops. And the guy called out one of the students in the back and just tore into him. I mean,
Oh
really
no.
ripped him a new behind. I said, that was the world I lived in. I said, I understand that. That's why I
Yeah,
said,
that
that
was the
young guy
world
that
you
he
were
tore
in.
into is lucky
Absolutely.
that he didn't get
Like how I'm
fired
feeling in here.
right on the spot. And I said, that's why I do it. And then someone else said, yeah, well, I'm going to do this. This type of job is IT, and I've got to be on the foot. I'm like, okay, all right. I just don't want you to ever say, why didn't somebody tell me that when I was in college? Because they should have done that when you were in high school.
No, I completely
But,
agree with you.
what happens in high school? The young teacher, somebody writes in high school, our team won the game. ARE, our team won the game. And then they bring the kid in at the PTA meeting, right? Parent Teacher Association, and say, your son, your daughter needs to get better at writing. They're not very good at writing. They wrote, our team won the game instead of going, O-U-R. They used a verb instead of a pronoun. That's not good. But when the teacher does that, then the parent defends the kid as opposed to telling him, Johnny, you got to get better. Then they go and talk to the principal or the superintendent, and then the teacher get called in and said, "Hey, do you have to use the word not very good for?" Well, then that's where the expectations get crazy, and then eventually the teacher just gets worn down and says, "Forget it. We'll give them all A's, in high school." And that's what I see happening. So I'd like to see them more prepared uh, to be academic, but then I understand what the teachers are up against too, because then they get called into the principal's office for not using didn't address it the right way. I mean, somebody needs to tell the truth around here, right? The buck has to stop somewhere for the students' development.
Completely agree. We'll end this on a story that I think should be told. And I try and tell people that are, I just talked to some people that are going to my former high school about where they want to go to college, what do they want to do. And of course, I always talk about Duquesne because that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And not paid to say that, obviously. I just feel like that was the truth. But the crazy part about it is that and I was saying this earlier, the first day that I ever had you in class,
Uh-huh.
you were filling in for a teacher that no longer is at the school.
Uh-huh.
And we were used to a certain way of things being done with that teacher, meaning he didn't care when you showed up. If you were 5 minutes late, it was okay. If you're on your phone, it was okay. Just that was the expectation that was set in the class, and partly because he didn't really care, and that was just kind of his thing. But I think he did. It's just he was getting older, and that's just how life happened. But I'll
Mm-hmm.
never forget that first day, we somehow were giving a presentation, and you were grading it, and I'm like, where the hell is Greenberg? That was the teacher at the time. And we get up there. First of all, the class was 9:25. I get there at 9:30. I'm driving in. I always get there at that time. You're pissed. And I didn't know you well yet. You were pissed. You're like, why are you late? You made a big scene in front of the class. And I'm like, this guy's an asshole. Like, I was pissed. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, we just played the night before. I just worked 13 hours the last 6 days in a row. I'm exhausted. You know what I mean? And at that
Mm-hmm.
time, I was such a young kid. I mean, it was okay. And then we get up there and we give a presentation. And you're very anti,
Mm-hmm.
you're that whole thing, which is amazing because
Is the
that
core of the
was
word dumb.
so important for public speaking, for the show that I did at the university, for my other podcasts and this show. I mean, this is improvised, so we can do whatever the hell we want. But that was one of the most
Uh-huh.
intense first days of having a new teacher where you walk in, embarrasses you in front of the whole class. Then you get up there and you present. And at the time, I was dropping ums left and right. I wasn't confident. And I was able to take that. You were hard on it. You were hard. You were
Mm-hmm.
tough. But I was able to take that and be like, yeah, you know what? That guy, I was pissed a little. I'm like going back home. I'm like, that guy's a little bit of an asshole. But at the same time, like, I need that sort of thing to be held accountable. And I think today, God forbid you do that to a young person,
Yeah.
a lot of them are fragile, but they just crumble and they don't know what to do. And they're like, you know what? Maybe that person that is older, that has more experience is right. Like respecting your elders, I think today is just so gone. And I want to
Oh,
give
yeah.
you so much
Yeah.
thanks and again, a huge shout out. And I do it as literally often as I can because that was such a huge moment. Like after that class is when I did the TV and radio show at the university. That's when like that idea kind of started to spark because I'm like, you know what? That was atrocious. I can't believe I just did that in front of everybody. And you talked about earlier inspiring confidence in students, inspiring that whole thing. And that was really big. So if you're ever going day to day and you're like, you know what, these kids are crazy, I'm never getting through to them, you
Yeah.
absolutely got through to this one because I'll never forget that story. And I tell people that all the time because you never, people are kind of afraid to be judgmental these days or to kind of say things or to be hard on
Yeah.
someone and afraid of being canceled, which is an annoying word. But, so I
Right.
wanted to say thank you again because that was,
Well, it's my pleasure, Anthony. And the truth, not that this is the Mutual Admiration Society here, but a student like you was going to be successful no matter where they went.
I
And
appreciate that. We're
if we
trying.
did it, if you had gone to Pitt, you would have been successful too. And you know, I used the all their cell phones to videotape themselves,
Yeah,
right?
that's also the thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
Well, and it's such an easy
I'd
thing to
love to
do. We
find
have a
that
lot of
video.
international students, so could you imagine taking that video, shipping it back to Germany or China or France, and wow, there's my grandson doing a second language in front of his peers or her peers,
Hmm.
and it means a lot. So you can lie, I can lie, but the video doesn't lie. So
Doesn't
when I
lie.
say you said 31 times in the 3 minute, 4 minute speech, like no, I'm wrong. It was 32 times. So that's the beauty of the videotape, and public speaking is without question one of the things that we have to
Stand by.
improve on, because no matter what your job is, eventually you're going to talk to the group you're going to address. And if you remember, we did a whole bunch of role plays that are
We
all
did.
possibilities: a job interview, a getting passed over for a promotion, a sexual harassment situation with the
Yeah.
handbook.
Hmm.
And you can be on either end of that. I wanted them to be prepared. I want everybody to be prepared, male and female. We tried to sell you 4 full season tickets. What does a sales presentation look like if I'm trying to sell you 4 full season tickets to the Sixers or the Nets? And then the inevitable one, which is firing. And it's not just because you're going to get fired. You may have to, your job may, like Up in the Air with George Clooney, the movie, you may be called on to fire someone. Well, how do you do that with dignity and respect? And not the way some people would have a TV show and do the Cobra, you're fired, right? We try to do it with dignity because that's what, ethics is an important thing at Duquesne. And it's the right way to do it
I
so
agree.
that people are allowed to save face. There's no reason to rub it into anybody's face. But more empathy, more sympathy, absolutely. But we can never not tell the truth. We have to tell the truth because that will, if we can improve on these things like you did, imagine you could accomplish what you've accomplished down there in Florida and done really well for yourself.
What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Man, that's a great question. I wish you had told me in advance to
I didn't
you
tell
were
you
going to
on
ask me that
purpose.
question because
I know.
okay. The best piece of advice, going way back to 19. My dad gave me a lot of really good advice, and I communicate even more than he did with my daughters. There's never a lack of words in our house. Now, they're not always positive words, back and forth with husband and wife, but it's not going to be mysterious. But in 1982, I interviewed with John Nash, and to this day is still good friends. He was the assistant GM of the Sixers. And my dad helped me write my first resume. And on my resume, it said, collected
Stand by.
19,000 eggs
Technical
a day.
difficulties, people.
19,000. So imagine a football field, 5 football field length of chicken coops where no mask. I don't know where OSHA was at that time, but no mask. You're just collecting them up. And I said, Dad, you really think that really we should put that on there? Is that relevant to being an intern with the Sixers? And that was the championship year, 82, 83, with Moses and Doc and that group and Mo Cheeks and everybody else. And my dad said, don't you ever be embarrassed about hard work. And I said, oh, okay. So when I brought that to John, he said, oh, I've never been on a chicken farm or a cow farm, but I own some horses. He says, how was that experience? I said, well, it really did smell and everything, but it was my first job and it was $2 an hour. I thought I was a great
Really cutting
negotiator
out
with the
the wrong
next
times,
summer,
isn't it?
summer of 80,
Welcome to the Word
between high school and
Podcast.
college. I paid $3 an hour. And he said, I'll bet if I ask you to move 6,000 T-shirts on a Friday night when we have a giveaway, you'll jump in there and do it. I said, absolutely. At least the shirts smell nice. So the new shirts. So my one piece of advice off the top of my head would be, all students coming out of college, don't poo-poo your own experiences and never be embarrassed about hard work, because that transitions and transfers to all walks of life.
Dr. Dick, thank you for your time today. I really
My
appreciate
pleasure,
it. Thank
Anthony.
you
It's always
for
good to see you.
coming on the show, and it's always great to see you. And I will be
My
talking
pleasure.
to you soon. All right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
God bless.
All right.
Don't try to verify, you know, son.